We are Impact Travel Kathmandu, welcoming you this evening in Kathmandu to a lovely panel on the topic empowering local communities through community-based tourism. Just to give a little bit of idea about Impact Travel Alliance, it is the largest community for social and eco-conscious travelers. It has 250 plus events so far and 25 local chapters. The Kathmandu chapter started in 2017, and we hope that we can bring in more events and programs to you, and you will also join us in the future as organizers and attendees. My name is Richa Neupane. I am the Impact and Sustainability Manager at Royal Mountain Travel. I also oversee the Impact and Sustainability Department for Royal Mountain Group across its companies. Our topic of focus today is community-based tourism and using it as a tool for local empowerment. Community-based tourism has gained traction in the recent years, while a concept such as ecotourism, agrotourism, village tourism emerged since the 70s and 80s. And all of their essence is to develop tourism sustainably. And community-based tourism is simply the culmination of different forms of sustainable tourism and one that leverages the expertise of the local communities. There have been many successful cases of community-based tourism around the world, and they have successfully offered sustainable products. And even in East Asia, they have become some solution to the problems posed by the conventional tourism. I would like to quickly welcome the panelists today. We have Anton from aventure.nu. We have Ria Sims from Planetera. We have Elisa from Traveler Storyteller, and Ayusha Prasai from Community Homestay Network. A warm welcome to the panelists, and thank you so much for giving us your time today. And I would now jump quickly to our panelists to just introduce themselves and tell us how community-based tourism aligns with their work and what it means, what it really means, so that our attendees and future travelers are more informed. Let's start maybe alphabetically. So from Anton, maybe?
Yeah. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from the Netherlands. My name is Anton. I'm working for aventure.nu, which means in English, Adventure Now. I'm working as a product manager for the branches we have, Shoestring, Koning Aap, and Your Way to Go. We sell our tools in the Netherlands and also in Belgium. We have group tours, and Your Way to Go, we sell the FIT tools. We started working with RMT in 2005. That's from their very beginning, since their establishment. Sustainability is very important for us. That's also why we like to work with Royal Mountain Travel. Community-based tourism is tourism in which local residents invite tourists to visit their communities and offer overnight accommodation. And this way, the residents can earn an income, living to provide food for their families and buy school supplies so their children can go to school. Community-based tourism has a positive impact on the community, as we believe, and the well-being of the families and individuals. Also for tourists, it's very nice. A good advantage for tourists and travelers is that when you are staying with a small community, you get to know the people who host you. And this is different from staying in a hotel. You are able to see and experience how the local communities live and feel that you're really part of that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anton. I forgot to add, I forgot to add, participants can just introduce themselves as well on the chat, your name and where you're from, um, and we'll do a question and answer. Hopefully the time permits, and you can also think, if you think of the questions along, you can put it on the chat as well. So I'll move on to Ayusha.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Richa. I hope I'm audible since I'm having some difficulties. So hi, I'm Ayusha from Community Homestay Network. I've been working as Chief Executive Officer since this March 2021. It has been a really exciting journey and challenging as well, because to switch the profession from development sector to tourism sector during the pandemic was a challenging yet exciting thing for me, because I truly believe in rural development, and community-based tourism is one of the ways to promote rural development in a very conscious and responsible way. So I think, although I'm very new to community-based tourism, I really feel that is what I've always tried to work on, and it really aligns with my passion. So at Community Homestay Network, we try to leverage the local knowledge and try to build it into an experience to help travelers experience the authentic culture of the local communities. We help them develop packages. We help them gain the much needed skill that helps to bridge the gap between the travelers and the host. So we, at present, we have 22 communities within our network where we support them logistically, also help them to market their products, help them to capacitate, and especially empower women to run community homestays where they're able to gain the financial independence while they're preserving their culture at the comfort of their homes. So yeah, I think that's it for now. Some will add on later. Thank you.
Alisa.
Okay, hi everyone. Thanks for inviting me to this panel. Always happy to talk about community-based tourism and to share this panel with us. Other professionals. It's always a pleasure to gather with other professionals in the area. So my name is Elisa Spampinato. I'm a travel writer. And also I call myself community storyteller because I founded Traveler Storyteller just to give space and visibility to community-based tourism project and stories. And I will tell more about this in a sec. I also am a community-based tourism ambassador for the Transformational Travel Council, the TTC, and every month I organize a free and open space called CBT Lighthouse, where I invite community-based tourism representative to talk about a project directly, to present themselves in their own words, how they want to, and then make connection with the tour operators or tourists or curious professionals. Sometimes I have a professor as well in coming and hearing from them. So what can I tell about community-based tourism? Is an invisible universe. That's what I can tell. An invisible universe of incredible experiences that usually have a strong impact on on a local level, have a support to youth and women empowerment, social inclusion, also often social innovation as well. Environmental sustainability is supported by community-based tourism project. Also, embedded in it, there is a protection and an enhancement of the material and immaterial cultural heritage, the living cultural heritage. So all this is community-based tourism and much more. But I want also to emphasize that most of this universe is not visible, doesn't reach the tourist. And then I can talk about this maybe later on. But I wanted to start briefly to mention what actually community-based tourism is not. There are some myths around, okay, that maybe nowadays with the time, kind of dismantling, but it still exists. So it's only for backpackers or for young people. It's uncomfortable and low quality standards, or is only a remote location, or is a niche. These are myths. So this thing we have to start thinking in a different way. It might have been true a long time ago, but not really anymore. So I want to just conclude, give a brief definition. Even everyone has kind of expressed say on, but also wanted to simply say that community-based tourism is when the local community is in charge of the tourism they offer. So meaning that they're designing or co-designing, developing, managing, and delivering the tourism. So of course, in partnership with other actors, but we can never work in tourism, especially alone. So we always work with other partners. But so commercial market access, they use partnership for capacity building, also for marketing, but they are the protagonists. This I think is very important to emphasize. And so therefore the experience is authentic and respectful, the culture is preserved, the economic benefits stay at the destination, and that usually spread across the community member, and the natural environment is looked after. So briefly, this is a picture of what community-based tourism is, and I'd like to leave a space to the others, and then we can get back to this maybe later. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I guess I can hop in now too. My name is Ria. I am the Global Program Manager with the Planetara Foundation. I'm based out of Canada, enjoying the last few days of summer here. It's getting cold very quickly. But at the Planetara Foundation, what we do is we work to break down those barriers that Elisa and others were talking about that keep communities from really benefiting and accessing the tourism industry so that they can achieve those goals that they want to achieve and create jobs and create training opportunities. Planetara, we work with hundreds of communities around the world, actually, and our main activities are in capacity building, so providing the training from communication skills, storytelling skills, to health and sanitation, to all those different things that a community or a person needs to really be successful in tourism, and also providing grants. We build a lot of toilets and kitchens and those things that a traveler you're looking for to be comfortable, but it's often those little things that can keep a community out of benefiting from tourism. And our team provides a lot of mentorship, online training, support, just being there to help communities as they navigate an industry that maybe they're not trained in, they don't have experience, they don't have a degree in tourism. It's new, so just being there as a support. And that's what we do at Planetara. Just to grow on and expand, obviously there's been a lot of definitions of community-based tourism given, and completely on board with all of them. Really about getting communities ownership, control. They are the decision makers in community tourism. Planetara expands it a little. We don't often refer to community-based tourism. We often refer to community tourism. And we work with a lot of nonprofit organizations, social enterprises, Indigenous and rural communities, of course, as well. Any opportunity to break down barriers and help people who have been left out of the tourism sector and can stand to benefit, whether it is a rural community trying to create jobs and celebrate and preserve their culture, to migrants in a European city, to differently abled people in Ulaanbaatar that we work with. So tourism can be, that catalyst for sustainable development for many different types of groups and people. It's not just about making tourism better, it's about achieving our sustainable development goals.
Thank you so much. I think we're really grateful of all the work that we're doing, and we're doing this to share the benefits of tourism and making it more equitable. My question for maybe Ria, would you be able to answer one question? um, just because you just spoke. My question is, how are communities around the world empowered through tourism? And do you have any successful models that you could share with us today?
Yes, of course. I mean, we've already started touching on these areas of empowerment when tourism is done right. The ripple effects within communities, they're not just on the surface level. It's not just, you know, the job you see, the income that you see passed on. It's the things you don't see, like confidence building, and it's the things like you know, women's participation in leadership and financial independence in the household. There's a lot of things that you don't see. I can give some examples. Of course, I'll start with Planetara's model as a great example of community-based tourism development. We're very proud to say we have a 100% success rate as we work with communities around the world in creating experiences that, one, are profitable and participatory, and continue to use tourism to achieve impact goals for years to come. And that's by working within the market, being market driven. Where travelers want to go, and we see that demand for more travelers wanting to go to more communities as you know, we all come out of this pandemic, building experiences that are developed by the community to meet market demand, and where the communities have that ownership has been really successful for Planetara. I'll tell a story just because to give an example and give context. The first community tourism experience that I worked on with Planetara when I joined almost 5 years ago now is with the Women's Development Center in Kandy, Sri Lanka. So I visited, I was looking for, you know, I had a travel partner, G Adventures, who really wanted to visit an impactful experience in Kandy. So I was meeting all these different organizations, and they brought me into their handicraft center, which hadn't been profitable in 10 years, but they keep it open because, you know, it supported 200 entrepreneurs, and they wanted to keep this center alive. And they showed me this dilapidated room that hadn't been used in forever. The windows were down, the ceiling was falling in, and they told me they wanted a cafe. And they couldn't do it. They didn't have the funding. They wanted a cafe, and they wanted to get more women involved. So we built the cafe. It doesn't take a lot of money, actually. But with this cafe, suddenly, you know, they were able to create jobs for you know, hosts and waitresses and chefs. And then suddenly the 200 women who provide handicrafts, they were making more money because travelers were buying products, and by linking them with the tourism market, we were able to see thousands of travelers in there in the first year, and they increased their profits by 400% within a year. So these are these little examples, and those profits are being invested in protecting and empowering women and supporting a home for at-risk or abused women. The profits are being used for advocating for women's rights. It's about spending your money wisely. So Planetara gets to see all these amazing stories. And this is just one example of hundreds of thousands. There's so many great community tourism enterprises out there that, when you spend $1, 100% of it stays in that community, and it goes to what is important to them, whether it is women's empowerment or environmental preservation or passing down their culture to that next generation. It's their decision, and that's really the whole point.
Thank you, Ria. Now I'll move to Anton. So you worked on, building the Western Circuit in Nepal, and we just wanted to know, how did the communities react, and how was it proposing this idea, a different trip to tourists as well, and what were the feedbacks and challenges that you faced? Just a second, and I'll unmute. Yeah.
Yeah, can you hear me? I want to go one step back. We started offering community-based tourism on our shoestring groups in Nepal already many years ago. I think maybe 8 or 10 years, I don't even remember exactly. In ITB in Berlin, I spoke with Shiva, your general manager, managing director, and he suggested to add a night in a homestay in Panauti in Kathmandu Valley in the group tours. And the group would be divided amongst different families, so the experience would be unique and very close contact with the local families. At first, I had some worries. This was something completely new for us, for the company. Are our clients waiting for experience like this? Would it be clean? Would it be healthy? I had my doubts, to be honest. But Shiva convinced me that Royal Mountain Travel would take good care of our clients, and they would check the conditions in the homestays with the families in the houses. So we agreed to add for one group tour an overnight, including the meals in the homestays and in Panauti. And afterwards, clients seemed to be not happy, but very happy with the stay. And in their reviews, they mentioned it as one of the highlights of their tour to Nepal. So we were happy that we did that. So then after we added also homestays in Chitwan, in the national surroundings of the national park for other tours. We have trekkings also where we do now homestays like in the Annapurna circuit. And also now we started offering community-based tourism for our individual travelers. During the years then Royal Mountain Travel developed more community homestays in different places, and I again got a suggestion from Shiva. Would you like to be one of the first companies that organizes tours to the western part of Nepal, the southwest part of Nepal? And because the other one was so successful, of course, I said yes. So we developed a new 3-week tour where clients visit 3 different homestays in the southwest part of Nepal. Also here they stay with the local families. The meals are included, and there's a close contact with the families. They do also some activities together, depending on where they are. It's like a boat trip or a guided walk in the village, a cultural program. In Bardia, we do a safari, a jungle walk, bird watching, all kind of things like that. We started offering this tour, I think, around 3 years ago. And we did have also some good departures with a lot of clients. And clients were also very happy with this tour, with this specific tour. In reviews, they even give 8.7 for this tour in a scale of 10. And that's one of our best scoring tours. So we are very happy with this.
Thank you, Anton.
You're welcome.
Have a couple of questions coming in. I'll come back to those.
Yeah.
My question to Elisa now is, how can, since you've worked in storytelling, and how can people get more information about community tourism, and how your own stories have helped empower local communities?
Okay, thanks for the question, Risha. because traditionally getting information about CBT has always been a problem. And I will say it is the problem. Why? The reason are many. There is no big investment in marketing from their side. Most of them, they don't even have a website, because we know how hard it's like needs people working on it constantly. So there is a lack of proper digital marketing and a lot of professional competition on social media. And last but not least, the language barriers. So also until now, there hasn't been big interest in writing their story from a travel media fact. So all these has meant reduced visibility for all this universe that I mentioned before. So, but there are a lot of stories there. So I always say too many stories. I myself, only the one I know, I'm not able to write them all because there's so many. So one of the reasons why I found the Traveler Storyteller as a blog is to start creating a space where they have more visibility, because the stories I write it with an ethnographical approach. I write stories with the communities, and also I support them with workshop to write their own stories. So the idea is like not be the only community storyteller. It wouldn't make any sense for me, right, because they are the one that should tell the stories. At the moment, I use my writing to as a channel for them, but the ideal word is when we'll see more stories from them, first-hand stories. Now, this is a long process as well, because there are no spaces, etc. So you had where to start somewhere. I started from my little blog and started growing that and then sharing the stories. So, and that's the reason why, by the way, I invite you to sign up to the newsletter, because through that you can get a regular kind of update on all the stories and all the different appointments that I have with communities, talking about the CBT Lighthouse, or also other new things that are about to start. So I will suggest you to do, because sometimes surprise there. Also, I've designed the Postcard series as a marketing campaign. That will be at the same time is a marketing tool for them, is a way of supporting and raising awareness about ethical tourism. So what is a Postcard series? Is short stories focusing on a protagonist of a community-based tourism project. And this comes also in a visual, which is kind of thought-provoking, because it's a postcard. But as we know, usually a postcard we buy at the places is they only see picture empty places, but not people. The message of the postcard will be, okay, so we have a story, there is a person, we visit in a place where there are people, of course, living, don't forget that. So we are guests. So this is a message. We're going to meet through this story. I start meeting my future guest, host. So I put myself as a tourist in the feet of a guest even before starting. So this is also change the mindset, right, of me as a tourist and the destination, and my impact and the way I interact. So, but then, so also you asked me about empowering. How empower. I don't like the word empower, because I don't give any power to anyone. They already have power. I just give allow them to be empowered, right? So allow them to express their power, let's say. And through stories, how I can share with you some points that are actually based on the experience of writing with them, chatting with them, and see what the reaction on them. I can say just there are a few things. So first of all, zooming in and taking the time to connect with local communities and local stories is an act of respect towards them. So I think this is something important to think about it, because I make a first step as a tourist I want to listen, I want to hear. This means time and silence from our side. So I think that is something that this also is a first step for empowering them, because you give a space for them to talk, right, to listen. So another things I want you to share is, it sounds funny, but I've noticed this has been more than 10 years since I started working with community-based tourism, that they themselves rediscovered the value of their own roots and culture through the eyes of a stranger, through the eyes of a tourist, who is interested in them, in their location, in their culture. So they rediscover what for them is their nature, right? For what is natural for them, rediscover them and start valuing them. This means increase in self-esteem, increase of even though they respect their own culture, but seeing that someone else travels miles come here and visit it, oh, this means that it really, so these had a big impact. And telling the stories is the first step of this connection, of course. Now, there are a couple of two things that I want to add that, so I also noticed then once I chat with them, we had 2-hour conversation, I write a story and I share with them the link and they see their own story published. They see their story being told and written down, published and unveiled in a way they free themselves up by the process. And this is been powerful for me to see in their eyes. You know, sometimes not even translated in words, but you see that they're proud of themselves. They're proud to say, oh, my story has been shared. This is something great. I mean, thank you. But I say thank you to them, of course, to share them with me. But the last thing is, remember the stories inspires, but they don't inspire only the listeners, they inspires the tellers as well. Because in the moment they are telling the story to me, to a foreigner, they are reaffirming their identity and their collective dreams and their inner strength. So this is an empowering process, telling their story. And then, so these are the main things. If you know, I can share this even more. But I mean, if there are questions, I'm happy to share more thoughts later. But thank you.
Thank you. It was refreshing to hear the little details of how people can feel more powerful and included. I would like to pose my next question to Ayusha. So with the pandemic, how has it been for communities who are in tourism, and what are the ways that people tourists or anyone partners can be involved with the communities, and also could you share more about what kind of impact has your work had?
Sure. I hope I am still audible. So, just to start with how pandemic has affected, I think there is no doubt. Like pandemic has hit the communities very severely. So I'm turning off my camera so that it would be better in that way. It has definitely hit the communities very severely, especially when we talk about the inequity and inequality that exist. It's very important to talk about the rural communities that we are discussing today to empower with the, I think with that thing, even a lot of research in Nepal and outside Nepal has shown the income inequality gap has risen during this pandemic time. So yeah, it has been a difficult process, and especially for Nepalese communities, rural communities, because most of them depend on either tourism or either through remittance, right? So this pandemic has affected in the both ways. So when we talk about local communities or the communities, rural communities that were hugely associated with the tourism, there has, like more than ever, like we always know that there is a tourism leakage, and how big businesses have been making profits rather than giving this equal distribution to the rural communities through which the tourism has been able to bloom in Nepal. But I think more than ever, it has been very unfortunate for Nepalese communities. But saying that, however, I think the support of local communities and the partners, like our international partners, have been very useful, I think, in the context of coping pandemic. When I talk about international partner, for us, like for Community Homestay Network, I cannot miss being grateful towards our towards Planetara. So thank you, Ria and team and Planetara. Like, they have been super helpful, and partners such as them and local government have been very supportive to uplift the motivation of local communities to help them better prepare for the post-pandemic times. Like from Community Homestay Network, we were able to provide health and safety sanitation training during the pandemic so that people still have this hope that it will resume, and when they resume, they can be more prepared. So Planetara has helped us with providing like safety and sanitation equipments for 2 communities that they directly work with in Nepal. So it has been, I think, forging partnerships with national, international, local bodies has definitely helped communities. So that has been one of it. And another one of like amid the chaos and uncertainty, I think one thing what really has helped the rural communities who were previously engaged in tourism and now has come to certain pause or halt is that their ability to learn entrepreneurial skills. Like one of our community members from Panauti, her name is Anjana. So I think she still is an active member of Community Homestay Network, but she was able to pivot her knowledge, like the entrepreneurial skill during the pandemic, like not just relying on the pandemic to be over or to host the community like travelers. She started her own business. Like she utilized it, saw the potential to start a business of making, selling mask. Like that was such need on a need basis. She also customized things. So sewing was her hobby, and she, through I think how she was being engaged in this entrepreneurial process of community homestays, she was able to pick up that knowledge and put it into the action during the pandemic. So I think more than ever, we have learned that tourism needs more resilience. And I think resilience comes from these kind of ideas by diverting the diversifying, I think would be a proper word, diversifying the income sources for, especially for the tourism related communities. And another beautiful example for Community Homestay Network, and I think that is one of the happy things that happened during the pandemic for us, was initiating Koseli. It was a project collaboration with communities. So most of our communities are agriculture dependent. So we started, like with the support of Booking Booster, we started this project called Koseli, means like a gift or souvenir in Nepali language. So we started to help them gain this knowledge, like train them on packaging. We are helping them in branding and marketing, so they can sell their local products like with nice packaging and branding. So I think there has been some beautiful things or the positive things that has happened with the communities during this chaos as well. So, but I think nothing would be possible without the partnerships from the local level to the international level. So I think this has been one of the highlight for us. And another thing I think was not just in Nepal. I think I was having this conversation with Priyanka from Planetara again last week, and she was telling me how the community, like community of women in Kerala, were able to diversify what they were doing. Like they had the specific experience of providing lunch boxes to the travelers, like to give this authentic food experience. But during the pandemic, they diversified that and pivoted that into providing lunch boxes to the people who were working from home. So especially, I think, because people were busy working, having hectic schedules, managing time, working from home. So that really helped. And now they're even taking like orders for events. So I think these are some of the really nice things that came out of tourism that was before the pandemic. And I'm pretty sure now, slowly, as the things are getting better, we'll get back to that. But I think the ability to switch, I think the most important thing is able to build that entrepreneurial characteristic. I think that is a very important part. And like Elisa and Ria told, and I think echoing with Anton, everyone, I think we are there. We are there to support and connect that bridge. I think how we can work with communities is forging partnerships with them, right? We cannot be this like say we cannot go there as a savior mentality and help. And I think someone in the chat box has also mentioned it, like how we can build partnership with them. When we think inside our organization, what kind of support does a community need? I don't think we can decide it for them. I think we have to send out the feedback forms, what they need, right? So I think to make it effective, yes, we have certain know-how about travelers, but they are the best resources to tell how we can execute it. So I think there has to be this understanding of collaboration, understanding their needs. Our role is to bridge the gap, because especially in countries like Nepal, we still have a technological problem. So as we can see, I'm in Kathmandu capital and I'm still having internet problems. So you can well imagine how it is difficult in the rural communities. So I think to bridge that gap, we are there. But I think the ultimate focus is to give that back to the community in any way we could do and help. So I think platforms like ITA can be really important for us to spread this kind of message to the global community of travelers, like to make them understand how we can build this responsible tourism, how to amplify the benefits of community-based tourism, and how to prevent the tourism leakage as well. Because I think the people who are bringing the beauty to the country should be the ones who are benefiting the most. And I think to wrap up, I would like to say, I think when we discuss about traveling and travelers, I think we always have to think about the destination, and I think destination is just more than the landscape. And of course, we have to be very careful about using the landscape, the sustainable means, but destination is always about the people there, their culture, and how to protect them. So I think if we keep that in mind, I think we'll be able to bring a positive change. And for us, I think at Community Homestay Network, Kosili has been one of the very impactful projects we have been doing in the pandemic. So we were able to create 8 specific products, 15 specific local products from 8 communities, and have been able to spread it out in 3 of the outlets, have been able to partner it with the very leading food service delivery like service in with the Kathmandu, within Kathmandu. So I think growing, learning, diversifying has been really helpful during this time. Thank you, Richa.
Thank you, Aisha. We're getting a lot of comments on our chat box about burgeoning issues in the tourism industry, and I think that is why Impact Travel Alliance exists, so that we can move forward with these problems in a more equitable and respectful way. There wasn't much specific questions. So one is about what it means to have what it means about working with translators. If you guys have experience with that, we'd love to know. And also, how do you measure how do you measure success in community-based tourism? I think these were 2 lines of thought that I could pick out from the chat. So anyone would like to answer, please unmute yourself and answer.
Yeah, I can kick off, I guess, the responses, and just to acknowledge the comments and the chat that's going on. I fully acknowledge, yeah, I'm sitting here as a white woman in Canada, speaking on behalf of the partners and communities that I get the privilege to work with every day, and get to hear their stories firsthand, which can be difficult to sometimes bring to a Zoom platform, can be difficult to bring to the international stage, which yeah, there's a lot of work we have to do to make sure that we can amplify community voices whether it's technology issues, language issues, there's a lot of barriers. And unfortunately, it means sometimes in spaces, you get to see me or other people that get the privilege to speak directly with communities. And there are definitely spaces that exist where you can hear directly from communities as well. I think Elisa, her work is definitely speaks to that too. Yeah, there's a lot of work to be done. I completely acknowledge, and the language we use, it's based in, colonial and speak, and really what Planetara is trying to do is uplifting the tourism industry. How do we make the tourism industry better? It's come a ways, and that's definitely speaking to travelers demanding better from travel companies, from destinations, from, as long as travelers keep demanding more and better from the people that are, hosting your tours or however you travel, and from the organizations working from communities. When you know better, you begin to do better, and so your money speaks. So yeah, keep investing in the things that mean the most to you and speak to your values. And yeah, with Planetara, I'll just talk to you, all of our work is based on partnership. It's not, Planetara coming in and saying what we want from a community and to do it. It's based on creating strong partnerships, like with Community Homestay Network, and hundreds of nonprofits and enterprises around the world, and just breaking down some barriers that exist, whether it is accessing the market, whether it is accessing training in entrepreneurial skills, which are super, super important to success in the industry. So that's just a side note, I guess, based on the chatter that's happening in the chat box. In terms of defining success for community tourism and community-based tourism, Planetara, we do impact surveys every year with all of our partners, based on the goals that the organizations have set out that they want to achieve. So is it so profitable? Are you getting access to travelers? What training do you need? Are you doing okay? Is your experience going well? Are you how many jobs, how many training experiences have you provided? Were you able to save money for your community fund? If not, why not? If yes, where were you able to invest it? Really trying to understand for each enterprise, are they achieving their goals? And if not, trying to figure out why. And that's where our regional teams, so Planetara does have team members around the world, would collaborate with the communities to start, whether it's mentoring or figuring out what is it, resources, financial, human, why aren't they able to achieve those goals? And just, again, starting to navigate and break down those barriers wherever we can.
Hi, thanks, Ria, for that. I also would like to, I'm totally with Ria. I feel sometimes I feel uncomfortable when I, I'm actually commenting on a chat with, because I feel I'm the first one feeling uncomfortable when I call myself a community storyteller. I'm not from a community, but you know why I started? I started because after spending years in Brazil, knowing tons of community-based experience, I went to London, lived there, moved there, and I realized that in all the responsible, I'm talking about 10 years ago, 11 years ago, in all the responsible network, even in the charity, like a tourism concern, 25 years experience with the ethical tourism, these stories that I knew from Brazil, that weren't there. So not because tourism concern doesn't care, is because there was a big gap. So, and has, those stories, I mean, how many stories are out there that have no space? And so when I call myself community storyteller, I do it with a humility that only who knows me personally can understand, because I don't want to say, oh, I'm the voice of the community. No, I'm not. I'm a community storyteller. And what I want, my idea is I won't be needed, because all the community will speak for themselves in all the language possible. Now, I want to give the support, like in different way the Planetary is doing on the capacity building. My support to them is like helping them to, with their story, to reach more tourists that want to visit them. So I suppose that if we look at ideal world, there are also steps to get there, and we are on the steps. So the ideal world is not yet there, but I think we all here working towards that goal, and we have to think that we are human. We started from a very limited and very lot of barriers there. So I think this is a process, and I love this, what I'm feeling in the last years and a half, and this openness to partners with community, because community, I'm talking about for Brazil in particular, in Latin America, for many years because they've been exploited, they close up to external actor, and then only after 10 years or so building the identity and the story, they say, okay, we know who choose. We able to decide to see if people want to exploit us. We have our rules. So in a way, it's a process for them too. It's a process for us to learn how to work with them who doesn't know. So I think we have to look us as on a spectrum. I can go talk about this forever, but my point is here, we need partnership, and we need to enter this partnership with the community on a horizontal level, while in the past they were top-down level, and that we know what that means. We don't want to repeat that. We need to review the way we build partnership with community, because community needs partnership. Being an industry born on network, or on the value chain, we need to work with others, because communities want to do all that by their own. It's very hard to get there unless they are super trained. Maybe one day they get there, and I'm happy for the one already reached that level, with a fully working website with many languages and with digital marketing there. This is a process. So some is already there, others community getting there, and some of them need the support. And we are not here because they're better than others. It's just because we help in that bridge, and then step away. That is our job. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know if there is any specific question for me, but I'm happy to answer any other if there are. So just a comment out of my heart.
Thank you, Alisa. So yeah, to the audience, if you have any specific questions to any speaker, please feel free to put it in the chat. And I don't know if we all covered it, but maybe Anton can answer it as well. About have you had any issues in terms of language barrier and bringing in translators during your work? You're still on mute.
No, we don't face those problems. Our group tours are guided by a Nepali English-speaking tour leader. And if there are problems, or people have problems with communication with the local communities, then the tour leader, of course, can help. And what I heard, I didn't experience it myself yet. I wanted to go, but pandemic, of course. So what I heard is that in every community, there are people who can speak English. So no problems about that. Practical problems, no. Also, the places where people stay, they're clean, the people are friendly. So I think it's a good experience for the travelers, but also for the local communities to learn to get to know each other. Two ways.
For sure. So Ayusha, would you like to take the question about what kind of schemes for homestays does the government of Nepal have to help local communities?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the question. So I think when we talk about the schemes for promoting homestays in Nepal, so it started from 1990s, like mid 1990s, like as a part of rural tourism, like promoting homestays was a big part of that. Village tourism, I think when it started in Nepal, the term used was village tourism. So government has put it in their even 5-year plans and development plans. But I think the problem was we had a centralized government then. So how the plans were made, I think that was a very top-down approach, and it wasn't able to create the impact that was meant to be. So I think after we moved into more federal system, I think now every provincial government has a specific budget, and even more so local governments inside the provincial government look after the local tourism part. So they have this specified budget to support the homestays, like in terms of standardization in some part, mostly covers training part. So yeah, there has been a lot of support from local government, but I think still we need to spread the words around. Like still people do not know that they can take benefit, like they can gain access to that kind of fund. So I think those things are important, and somehow some people benefit than the others. It is very tricky. What government encourages, and we also at Community Homestay Network encourage, is to be registered as a homestay, either individual homestays or community-based homestays. For us, like from Community Homestay Network, we encourage them to become registered as community homestays, so create a community entity that they can take benefits from the government when they provide such schemes like training schemes. So in Nepalese context, there has to be at least 5 homestays to form a community homestay, and then they can build register as a community homestay, where they will have their elected representatives and enterprise themselves. So they have like a scheduled meeting, how to do the welcome, like they planned everything. So I think there is a scheme, and now even more so there is a power for local governments to implement those kind of scheme, and local people to demand for those kind of support. Yeah, thank you.
And if I can, I want to acknowledge that the chat in the chat, the work that Voice of Rural India is doing is part of my ideal world. I would like to see these kind of spaces everywhere. So so this is an amazing initiative that actually, where we can see directly the voices from local people coming out, and that is something that in other places of the world is not happening yet. But this is an example to to think and reflect, because we have to create these spaces. We don't know much about community-based tourism because these stories are not available for all the blockages and barriers that I mentioned before, and others. So yeah, this is an example of my ideal world, just to compare. And actually, thank you, Shiva, for joining us today. Yeah, this is a great project, and talking about storytelling and hearing local voices. So yeah, just to acknowledge this to people that cannot see our chat because it's connecting through Facebook, for example. And yeah, thank you. And I know there were a couple of people with a hand, I think, raised, but
I think we still could know more about how tourists can, access community-based tourism, and how they can access information. Like we have seen, it's not in the mainstream, but it's on its way. Let's hope with all our efforts. So, can anyone share more about maybe how can travelers get informed?
well, this is the question. This is what I'm working on, to create more of these spaces. I mean, as I say, my blog provides some stories, but of course is a very little percentage of that. But the idea is like, more I would like to raise a question and a comment in terms of why we don't have all these stories on the mainstream. So I think would be interesting. Yeah, the travel media is built, traditional in a certain way. I think there is some grassroots initiative like the Voice of Rural India, for example, can be a way of replenish this gap and creating like more diversity. We need more narratives, right? So there are little spaces around because community themselves are the first to say we're not qualified, no, we're not journalists. So, and this is all the work that different organizations do, and I do in my little world as well, is again, capacity building, provide this knowledge and also the reverting kind of the perspective. They don't need, I always start this workshop with them, say, you don't need anything else. You already have the story. You are the story, right? So it's kind of, and how you can tell a story is, can be different ways. It doesn't need to be written, can be a picture, can be a poem, can be a video. So open up all the community you work with. I think all the tour operators have the responsibility to open some spaces. This is my appeal. Like kind of, how can we get these stories out? Everyone every partner, local community that work with them should have in their blog a space for their local voices, the people they work with directly. And then, and this, I think, in this way, gradually, the mainstream travel media will change as well, but also will change because people, tourists, as us, as asking more to hear these stories. So these kind of offering more responsible and ethical community-based tourism experiences, and at the same time, that will change. That is not only responsibility of the tourists. What I'm trying to say is like sometimes we say, okay, and I come from an event in Évora, Portugal, the Word for Travel, where there were interesting discussion, and I'm writing about it, by the way. But the thing is it the tourist that needs to ask for more responsible and sustainable experiences? Yes, and he's doing it. He say, we want a more authentic experience. We want to connect with the local community. At the same time, though, tourism industry has the responsibility to offer more sustainable and more sustainable. When I say sustainable, I think co-designed experiences with the local community that are respectful of the environment. So once you offer, more tourists will take it because it's what they want. I think it's like a kind of every actor of the industry should take his responsibility. My responsibility is telling the story that I know there are no space to be told. Other actors have other responsibility, but everyone has one. And here again is a kind of collaboration rather than pointing the finger. No, you had to do it. Oh, you had to do better. So everyone, had to say what we can do to give more visibility to what already happens and support them in a way that they can be more independent and then become their own, their own project with no need of Planet Terra to be there giving capacity building, because you're right. So that is the point. So yeah, I didn't answer directly the question. I kind of wanted to provoke a change for everyone to reflect on. But
Thank you. I love the discussion having in our chat. We're talking about why is there marginalization, and I think those are important questions, and we can hopefully help answer that through our work. And anybody else would like to add to the earlier question about how can travelers be more informed?
So I would like to quickly add on those things since we also work closely with that. So I think a lot of platforms have been coming up where travelers can really look up to it. So I think looking up, I think our responsibility is to create the awareness why community-based tourism is important. And I think as a traveler, as they become aware, I think they will look for the resources. I think now, I think especially during the pandemic, it has been a very important time for us, everyone, not just those who are inside the business, but also for the travelers to have more responsible travel habits, right? So I think a lot of platforms coming in, a lot of startups, a lot of established business starting out their wings to promote sustainable and responsible tourism. And I think that's a very important part as someone from tourism industry. And I think every one of us here present can really I think agree with that, like how our businesses are supporting and creating the awareness. So I wouldn't like to prefer to say names where these things can be available, but there are platforms now, and I think if we look for it, I think our responsibility for now is to create the awareness. And I think that's important, like, because when travelers travel, they spend money anyway, right? So to make them able to understand where they spend is actually powerful, and giving back to the communities, I think that's the most important part from our side. Also, like you just mentioned, the communication that's going, like the chat in the chat is really interesting. And I think I was having this discussion with one of my colleagues about how we use the term empowerment or empowerment. So it really is very tricky, and it really differs from people to people how they feel empowered, right? So for some, like from our experiences, we have known that a lot of women who were associated or previously were homemakers, so they didn't have this bank account, right? No, not an access to finance directly. So having a bank account for them is a symbol for independence for them, not for us, right? For them, I think. And for some, working and gaining money to educate their children is an independence or a freedom. But for some, learning this new language, communicating with the travelers. So we cannot box community-based tourism also into one thing and call it empowerment that we are trying to do. But I think how understanding their need and how they are making changes in their life is what it matters. And sometimes when we talk about the empowerment, and especially women empowerment, I think we come from this very masculine perspective that women has to go out and speak in a very loud voice and have to have this masculine leadership quality. So sometimes it's yeah, some people love it, right? But some people are maybe comfortable inside their house doing their things. So I think our purpose is also to build to be able to give them this opportunity to where they can bring their independence while they're inside the house, right, in their comfort zone. So making their money count into the GDP is a very important thing, I think. So yeah, I just wanted to address that part. Thank you.
Thank you. So another query has come up, like what kind of stake do communities have in terms of finance, leadership in tourism? Ria?
And I have a comment on that, but yeah, if you want to go first.
Go ahead.
Okay, so so the point, I understand what I mean. The discussion is really fiery because there are a lot going, and also because we call things in different ways, right? So just to clarify, when I talk about community-based tourism project, I'm talking owned by the community, 100%. When I'm not talking about tour operator that work with the community or they do the activity in the community. No, when I talk community-based tourism, that base means that the community is owning it, is there, 100%. That's why I said beginning is they protagonists. Now, one of the reasons why personally, when I organized the CBT Lighthouse for the TTC is because at the beginning of the pandemic, I started noticing that this everyone suddenly was doing community-based tourism. And this is, I see the risk of a greenwashing there, like happened for the eco tourism. So let's, and this is very, I don't want to close the discussion, I mean, but this can open up more. But the point is, if you call community-based tourism project, my language, in my world, and the people I work with, this is something that the community owned. Now, is theirs. They work with other service providers like other tour operator, other DMC, and other people that help them to promote their work. But they all the 100% of what they gain in the community, in the tourism activity, is theirs. Full stop. So there is no how many community own a financial stake. Is all theirs when you talk about community-based tourism. Now, if I'm a tour operator and I work with community, that is another story. You have to investigate which kind of relationship they have, and I mean, and then based on the transparency of the tour operator, activities, they will tell how much. But that is another story. So doing tourism in the communities for me is more exploitative kind of form, because I take my tourists into the community and I charge them, but the community doesn't take anything from that. But that is, we're not talking about that. We're talking about something else. And then, yeah, as I say, I can go on forever on this and bring a lot of examples, but yeah, I can carry on later on if anyone is interested. Can contact me directly, and then I can implement on that. But yeah, just my answer.
Yeah, just to build on Elisa's point too, the communities that Planetera works with, yes, when they host an experience, travelers come in, all the money is staying in the community, and they are sharing the profits in different ways, and they have different models or ways they've registered their businesses based on the country, based on the context, whether it's a cooperative model, whether it's a profit sharing model, whether it's a nonprofit and people are paid fair wages, but it's the money is received in traveler dollars, is given to whoever was elected or is the manager or whoever is the leader of this community enterprise, however they manage their finances in different ways. And you do see different models. I have seen some where they're the profit sharing with X% of all the profits are divided at the end of every year. There's a lot of different models that are used. It's hard to say like how many or what's the majority.
And I can also give an example what Royal Mountain Travel did. I mean, it's already established tour operator and travel company, but it's what started as CSR led to more engagement from the communities itself. So I think if larger businesses have that onus to do something for communities, it will be much easier for the communities as well. But of course, it has to be a shared partnership, and the vision should be that the communities will lead what they are providing, with the businesses that they are providing. They will be the leaders. I think that's the vision that should be. I think we have to wrap up in 15 minutes, within 15 minutes now. So I would like to get some, final thoughts and anything that you've missed to mention. We'll start with Anton.
Yeah, hi. I just want to say that it's a really very nice experience to stay in one of the community-based tourism places organized by Royal Mountain Trek. I can tell that because the reviews of our clients are all very positive. Positive for the clients, our travelers, but also for the local communities, as far as I can understand. So go and visit those communities. Thank you.
Thank you.
I can hop in. Yeah, just I guess one thing I haven't mentioned, and something that Planetera has spent a lot of our time on over the last 18 months is the Global Community Tourism Network, which we were able to launch in April this year, which is a compilation of, our team had traditionally done a lot of training in person with and through partners, and doing a lot of training on the ground and trying to navigate how to meet the needs of all of the community tourism enterprises that we work with as they were, you know, through feedback surveys and through phone calls, expressing that they wanted to gain new skills in different things and improve their experiences during this time when, you know, tourism has been on a standstill, or be able to market in different ways, be able to access the domestic market. And one really interesting thing that we've been able to do now that we have, you know, an online platform which has, you know, your training, how, you know, price setting, and all of the things that a business leader might need to be successful. But peer-to-peer learning has been a huge part of what has made this really successful. It's, you know, having our, you know, an organization we've worked with in Costa Rica get on a call with an organization we've worked with in Belize and walk them through how they launched their coffee tourism experience and what are some of the best practices. It's, you know, not just Planetara coming and you know, showing how to do something and what's the best practice, but hearing from others. And it's been really lonely for, you know, communities all around the world. Often a lot of these communities that we're seeing, they're not accessible, they're a bit rural, they're, you know, they've been a bit left behind with the pandemic. The inequalities are vast that have come out of the pandemic. So being able to feel connected, even online, to people going through the same thing has been a really special thing. And if there's, you know, community enterprises out there that you visited before, and even, you know, reach out and say, hey, can't wait to visit you again. Like, travelers want to go and visit communities again. Yeah, just being there to make sure that you know, that this demand didn't go away because the pandemic happened. It's actually growing, and really trying to emphasize through different channels that, you know, we'll come back stronger and better. And communities have been working really hard to make sure that their experiences are better than ever, and even more, you know, not motivated by outside voices and sources, very much what they want it to be.
So yeah, I can quickly some of things. I think one of the things I would like to mention, how at community homestay network and maybe all in communities too, we have to understand that
I've just texted Aisha to turn her video off, if that helps. Aisha, your voice is breaking.
Okay. While we're waiting for, oh, she's back. Sorry.
Am I audible now? Sorry.
Yeah, it might be your internet, and we're hearing the small voice.
Okay, so maybe I can try to speak a bit louder.
Okay.
So what I was trying to say was how we can build experiences around communities and like highlight their potentials and highlight what they have been doing, like in terms of their environment, culture. I think that's an important part, not just treating community-based tourism as accommodation providers, but as a true experience in itself. I think that's a very important part. And at Community Homestay Network, we at least try to create 4 experiences in the communities. I think that's where we come in, like just to help them understand what could be really helpful for our travelers as well as for them. So I think we also try to bridge that gap. And another thing, I think as a community, when we are discussing about various things today, I think communities, understand themselves how they need to function in a way. Like, we don't need to teach them, right? I think that has been the core message we are trying to give. And in Panauti, one of our flagship programs, where we have been, where we started our community homestay project from, I think the ripple effect has been already seeing, like young people starting their own bike stations, like creating other economies. That's also one of the good examples, and they came up with their own idea. And that has been one of the very unique experiences for cycling trails in Panauti. So it has added a lot of value to the community itself. Also, answering to that last question, since we are also a part of, even we are a social enterprise, but we are a tour operators and OTA platform, right? So I think creating this fair, transparent system is also very important. So for example, when our community says $50 per night, we provide them $50, but I think it's well communicated in our website and to all our stakeholders that we hike up 15% to take our operational charges. So if it's 50, so there is always 15% addition, but then it's always transparent. If the community says they deserve 50% or they need 50%, $50, so they receive $50. Anything up like 15% above than that is clearly communicated with all our stakeholders. So that's our business model. So I think as a tour operator also, we need to be very transparent in explaining our model, and we explain our model not just to our communities, but to all the travelers that connect with us. And it's out there in our website, very clear. And within that, the 85%, let's say in the total amount, 85% that is received in the community, 50, they have to save 20% for their community as a community development fund. So it helps not just the community homestead that are functioning, but also to the wider community, whatever they would need, like a street lights, or maybe sponsoring a kid, or even helping them build better sanitation facilities. So yeah, just wanted to wrap that up. Thank you.
And my wrap-up message is more like an invitation to the tourists to stay curious and remember that the narratives are always plural, especially, I mean, even in the same community, there are many narratives. And what means that we might not know all of them, but we had to, as a tourist, going with this mindset that whatever we heard about it, it might be partially true. Let's go and listen, and stay open and then, of course, search around to gather more information about a place, because before even going, but when you're there, just don't act as you know everything. You don't know anything. You're still a guest. You want to open and connect with the people there and see where interact with them on a human level in the first place. So what the stories could help with is story that you might read in advance, is like helping this connection. If it's a story done, in a way that is not from someone that been there for 2 days and then saying, so it's like you have to see which kind of story you're looking for, but remembering the narratives are always plural, and there is no one, and we build it up with the community kind of more stories, because we need more stories coming out. So we're actually realizing that the diversity we have we haven't even reached the top of the iceberg still. So I will invite everyone to read my blog, of course, because there are stories there from grassroots level, and inviting you to the CBT Lighthouse to hear from the community members. Sometimes I'm the one interpreting them. Sometimes I ask help from some volunteer to translate, because it's an open space, free for everyone to join, but you will hear their voice. You can ask their question. I can see how they work and which kind of tourists they want. Is always, I also ask them, so we can adapt to them, because we are visiting them, right? So what else? Yes, let's spread this new generation of Postcard in my mind, like this idea that when we visit a place, we're not visiting a place empty. We visit a place inhabited by people. So we got to meet people so they can teach us about their place. And this is more a message for my fellow tourist travelers here. And yeah, open here to receive any question offline if anyone's feel interested in like going deeper in some, but also don't get lost in some terminology. We talk about content here, we're not talking about labels, right? So we're talking about, we use a term, but we're talking about something more deep than there. And then what we're talking about here is I think we're quite clear where we are. And then so yeah, don't get lost in some wording or labeling that is not helpful for anyone. Right. So I'm, thank you. This is my wrapping words. Still open to chat.
I think, this panel has been a learning experience for us as well as our attendees, and hopefully more people can learn using the web when we put this on YouTube, and it was live on Facebook as well. So thank you so much, everyone. I just wanted to remember the story from Community Homestay Network that, because we provided a window to, getting into the travel world, like people have been taking ownership of their communities and also ownership of protecting the environment as well. That is in Bardia, and we would love to share more about that as well. And in my role as well, I'm hoping to find more and more stories, and I can connect with people interested here, so that we can bring that universe into the forefront. And that's about it. Thank you so much, everyone. Especially thank you to our panelists, and also Jody and Bikal. I forgot to mention you guys in the beginning, but thank you so much for all the logistical support and helping me prepare for this panel. With that, we will be sending our feedback forms to those who registered with the Eventbrite link. And yeah, follow Impact Travel Alliance and Impact Travel Kathmandu, so that and help us create more events like these.